There's nothing better than being able to go into your backyard, grab some fresh chicken eggs, and fry some up for breakfast. But what do you do with all the leftover shells? You could either throw them in the trash and let them rot in a landfill, or you can save them and feed them back to your chickens, which will help ensure their future egg shells are stronger. This will help prevent things such as soft eggs in the future due to the calcium boost. I personally like to put my eggshells in the freezer in a gallon bag, that way they can build up over time. This way I only have to bake them and deal with them 2 or 3 times a year. Other people like to save up a couple shells and then start the process and just do little bits at a time. It's whichever one you really prefer. Once the bag gets full and you're not ready to do the process, all you have to do is smush them up. They'll break down and you could add more. Once you're ready to start the process, all you need to do is thaw them out, and then you can dump them on some baking sheets. One thing with the freezing process, the shells are going to be a lot more damp than if you just saved up a couple at a time and did it. So we're going to need to bake them a little bit longer to ensure that there's no more moisture. I bake mine at 350 degrees for 15 minutes. Once the 15 minutes is up, I pull them out, I flip them over, and then I put them in there for another 15 minutes. At this point you want to break up any big chunks that you see or any shells that are stuck together, that way there's no moisture that's trapped. Now I use a non-stick pan, and normally doesn't give me any issues, but this time they did stick a little bit, so I suggest using some type of parchment paper. Once you get them back out of the oven, you're going to want to check and make sure that there's no moisture anywhere. So I'm checking any of the big fragments, anything that I see that's stuck together, and I'm just making sure that there's no trapped moisture. It needs to be bone dry. The whole thing needs to be bone dry. If you do find any moisture, you could throw them back in there for another 10-15 minutes. None of this is really a science. You could either do it for a longer amount of time or a higher temperature for a shorter amount of time. Both work. Once we guarantee that they're dry, and they almost have a brownish tint to them, it's time to put them in the blender. I'd suggest doing just a little bit at a time, and just doing like a pulse or two on the blender. That way we get nice eggshell chunks, and we don't get powder. We want to make sure that the eggshells are small enough, though, that the chickens don't recognize them as eggs, or else they can get into a habit of pecking their own eggs, and nothing good comes from that. I store mine in a Ziploc bag. Just because of the amount that I do, I can slowly give it to them over time. Chickens absolutely love it. Not only is it giving them benefits, but they think they're getting a snack. So it's a win-win for everybody. If you do have a little bit of powder in your mix, don't worry about it. I wait till the end of the bag, and usually there's always a little bit of powder, and you could just dump it into their feed, and they won't know any different. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you learned something, and I really hope that you consider feeding your eggshells back to your chickens. Not only is it so beneficial to their eggs, but technically you are recycling. You're keeping those eggshells out of your garbage can, keeping the smell down, and keeping them out of the landfills. So thank you again, and I hope you have happy and healthy chickens.